Okay, now we come to our last example in this section, and it is again a little bit more involved. We're stepping up each time. So here we have 3 over x minus 2 is less than or equal to 4 over x plus 5. Now we do not have our condition of a single fraction or a single rational compared to 0. So the first thing we're going to have to do is to move this 4 over x plus 5 over to the other side. So that will give us 3 over x minus 2 minus 4 over x plus 5 less than or equal to 0. Now, we're getting closer. We're compared to 0, so that's part of it. But we have to have a single rational expression, which means I need a common denominator. So our common denominator in this case, and I'm going to do this in one step, our common denominator is x minus 2 times x plus 5. Well, think about, what does the first fraction need in order to look like the common denominator? It needs an x plus 5. So we're going to do the exact same thing to the numerator. So that would be 3x plus 15 if I distribute that 3 out. Now for the second fraction. In order to turn it into the common denominator, we would need to multiply by x minus 2 on the bottom and then the top also. Now when we distribute, we're distributing this negative 4 throughout the parentheses. So that would be minus 4x plus 8 and then less than or equal to 0. Now we can combine like terms. So we have 3x minus 4x would be negative x, and the 15 plus 8 would make a positive 23 over our common denominator of x minus 2 times x plus 5 less than or equal to 0. So now we have a single rational expression compared to 0. Much, much better. Now we're going to take each one of those factors, the numerator, which was negative x plus 23, set that equal to 0. The x minus 2 factor, and set that equal to 0. And the x plus 5 factor, and set that equal to 0. So here we would have 23 equals x. Here we would have x equals 2. And here we would have x equals negative 5. These are our critical values. So when we set up our number line, we're going to have critical values over here at negative 5, and then at 2, and then at 23. This is what's going to separate out. So we're going to be looking at each one of those sections. So remember, we had a factor of negative x plus 23, an x minus 2, and an x plus 5. So let's see what's happening in each one of those areas. Over here, let's choose maybe negative 6. Negative 6 plus 5 would be negative. Negative 6 minus 2 would be negative. And negative 6 would be positive 6 plus 23 is positive. Now look at what's happening here. We're going to be multiplying these two and then taking this divided by that. So we would have a negative times a negative is a positive divided by a positive is a positive. Now let's look in this section here. In this section we can use 0 to test. 0 plus 5 would be positive. 0 minus 2 would be negative. And negative 0 plus 23 would be positive. So again, we would have a positive, negative times a positive would be a negative, and then a positive divided by a negative would be negative. Now let's try something here, like say maybe 5. 5 plus 5 would be positive. 5 minus 2 would be positive. And negative 5 plus 23 would be positive. A positive divided by a positive